The whispers in the walls. It was a cold November night when Claire moved into the old house on the edge of town. It was a fixer-upper, but the price was too good to pass up. As she stepped into the dimly lit foyer, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The house had been empty for years, but it didn't feel abandoned. It felt like it was waiting. Waiting for her. The first night, Claire heard faint sounds. At first, she assumed it was just the house settling, creaks, groans, things that old homes do. But by the third night, the sounds were clearer. It wasn't just the wood. There was something else. A whisper. Soft, almost inaudible. She sat up in bed, listening. The whispers seemed to come from the walls, like they were speaking just behind the plaster, just out of reach. Come closer. Her heart raced. She chalked it up to her imagination and tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. The whispers grew louder. And they weren't just whispers anymore. Now, they were words. Let us in. The hairs on her neck stood up. She jumped out of bed, grabbing the nearest flashlight, and made her way to the living room. Her footsteps echoed through the quiet house, but the whispers never stopped. They followed her. She tried to ignore them, even convinced herself it was all in her head. But then the scratching started. Something, or someone, was scraping at the walls. Slowly, methodically. Claire backed away from the noise, but it only grew louder, closer. She turned the flashlight toward the wall, and for a moment, the beam flickered. And then, she saw it. A shadow moved behind the plaster, like a figure crawling just beneath the surface. She gasped, and the shadow froze. The whispers turned into desperate screams. Help us, we're trapped. Panicked, Claire ran to the front door, but it wouldn't open. She tugged at the handle, her breath coming in short gasps, but the door was locked from the inside. The walls groaned, and the shadow grew larger. She felt something cold brush against her leg, and then, silence. Suddenly, she was back in her bed. The house was still. Quiet. But when Claire looked at the wall, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The faintest outline of a hand pressed against the plaster. On the other side,